Greetings, greetings. This is this is Body-Culinary doing a quick check-in. Yeah, this early morning I have some fresh Cerrasee that I just picked out of the yard, and I just blended some up for my sister. It's very bitter. We want to taste the bitters, and I just wanted to just check in, just to share some insight into some of the things that folks may not share about vegan, or other than label a natural lifestyle, because it's not just about vegan, but it's about really a natural lifestyle and behaviors that I like to say are cruelty free, first to your body and your brain, and also to the other creatures we share the planet with, which makes sense, and also to where we're getting our food source from. And just want to touch on why some certain things may not be shared. So it's been a journey of about 30 years. Over this last decade, 11 years plus of being a living foodist. I did another stint of many years after leaving high school of being a vegetarian and eating natural. It's a whole journey of clearing up my skin, avoiding obesity, and so on. But there are so many nuances that folks may not tell you, and they may not share certain things because they may not have experienced them. And with social media, there's so much that's put online that people may try stuff for a couple of weeks or may try for a couple of months. And so if they haven't had certain experiences, they may not be able to share it with you. For example, folks jumping on to do, the trend, water fasting, juice fasting, different camps going back and forth. Water fasting is good, water fasting is not good, juice fasting. A lot of folks may look at a quick YouTube video and mimic their interpretation of what they think they're seeing, and there's so much they may not have accounted for, just in terms of experience, doing things numerous times over the years. You're reading things or seeing things from people that is just maybe just people are just not experienced or haven't done something long enough to give feedback. If they're just trying something for 6 months. We've had things that we've been doing to our bodies for years, and it may not occur to us. Many things we put in the body have to come out. So I like to be very real about what I'm experiencing. Why? Because clarity. When people are struggling to lose weight and struggling to exercise, when you get really clear, it saves you so much time, right? It's going to save you so much pain from experience. So, for example, I just picked this fresh Cerrasee. It's very bitter. When I was in the States, I had never seen the fresh Cerrasee growing. So when I pick it, I know what it looks like. I know when it's dried out. I can tell the difference between the fresh Cerrasee and the dried Cerrasee. And you got to use whatever's available to you in your environment. But there's so much information I get from preparing the food fresh. So I'm a big experimenter. Experimenting is what's gotten me very clear. And again, I'll say this is what has moved me beyond the labels of merely veganism, to look at the labels and to have a lot of common sense. So I could have any new age person and anything that's trending could tell me anything, but you couldn't tell me the things that I've experienced with my common sense. For example, I'm always saying that the food talks to you. When we picked the nopales, this is from our yard, and the aloe, for example, how the food behaves. If you go to the store in the food co-op that we belong to in the States, you can get a big bottle of aloe juice. I think sometimes $20, $30. It's totally different than picking when you got a huge amounts of aloe in your front yard. And you can see also that the aloe will stain your clothes. A lot of times you can't even get the aloe out. If you're getting the aloe juice out of the bottle, it doesn't behave the same. So right there, I've seen this with coconut cream. I've seen this with fresh olives that have not been put in salt and brine and flavoring. They taste totally different. Actually, I used to sell olive oil, gourmet olive oil, for a living, and I've experienced the fresh olives don't even taste palatable. So what kind of information does that give me? That tells me that a lot of times we're eating the salt. We're eating the salt and the flavoring. So this, in addition to folks, particularly if you're in an area that doesn't have a year-round growing season, or if you don't have a garden, there's so much information about the food that you don't have. And so anybody can sell us anything, or anybody can tell you anything, and you may not have your own experience to compare and contrast. So I know what the fresh Cerrasee looks like, the fresh coconut cream. I've shared this in other videos. When I make fresh coconut cream from mature coconuts, and then I've had, I call it teenage coconuts, and jelly coconuts, and water coconuts, and dwarf coconuts, and I eat coconuts every day, all day. Well, not all day, but a lot of the day. I eat coconuts every day. If somebody comes to try to sell me a coconut, for example, that's discolored, and from my experience, the coconuts that are discolored, I see bacteria, I'm aware of bacteria and discoloration, then I'm not likely for somebody to just tell me, well, the coconut is just discolored like that naturally. That's what the package says. If I eat coconuts all the time, and this is the wisdom of grandmothers, they've had so much experience. My two great-grandmothers and my grandma Lou were all in their 90s. There's certain things that they've been doing for years. So an expert could come and tell my grandmother something, but from her personal experience, she can really gauge from her common sense and make an informed decision. I think this is something that is missing because of experience. And then also, some of us may not be willing to take on full responsibility. I'll give another example. Some folks before have asked me about Dr. Sebi, and I really enjoyed Dr. Sebi. He was very, he had quite a sense of humor. He had a clarity and a common sense. At the same time, I think it's very important, no matter who the elder is, for us to use our common sense. I would think our parents and our elders, even if you think of the principles of Kwanzaa, leave things better than you inherited it, right? That we all add a chapter of information. We all add a chapter of information. The environment is not the same as it was many, many years ago. You may move to a different environment or a different terrain where certain fruits and vegetables may not be available. So you'll need to be adaptable. You'll need to be adaptable to your work schedule, to your budget, to what's available during that season. So having a good amount of common sense will allow you to be flexible. I prefer not to eat from folks, right? Because I've worked in the food industry and I've seen certain things that go on in restaurants. So my experience, even when I went to culinary school or years ago when I ate meat, all of that information serves me well and makes me really, really clear. So this now 11 years of being eating, not being a person, but the behavior, eating whole, fresh, unprocessed foods, which I tend to keep repeating that more so than just vegan. It's vegan in terms of it's cruelty-free to you and to others. But the behavior is fresh, whole foods that you can recognize. So that's a distinction from eating all the processed foods that are in the store. That can be a transition, but they can also run your food bill up. And they can also, studies have shown that they're high in omega-6s. And many folks, many clients, many of us want people to tell us good things about many of our habits so we can keep vices and certain addictions alive. And it doesn't necessarily serve us. So we jump on one bandwagon after another bandwagon. So another experiment of something that I've done recently is I've tried certain things that I haven't tried in years, and well over about 11 years. And one of them I tried liquid coconut amino acids, which are raw. And raw can mean that it's not heated to a certain temperature. Now, pretty much I don't like things out of packages. But as a chef, I'm a person that will experiment. And I recently tried, for a recipe, I tried a naturally brewed soy sauce. Haven't eaten any wheat, any gluten in years. I could feel it inside of my fingers. I took it and I threw it in the garbage. So if somebody comes to tell me something, about this fabulous recipe or whatever, I know what I felt in my body, and I've been doing it for so many years. Something people may not share is that your palate will change. Certain things will taste very salty to you. Some people may not want to let go of certain attachments, emotional attachments to food. I will say you have so much to look forward to. So people may think that it's boring or you don't have any excitement. That's not an issue. Once you learn the food, and there's so many things that you don't have to do any work to, there's a lot of enjoyment to be had. But you do become more sensitive to things that are in the food when you're not used to eating it. And that is something to reckon with that people may not share. So if somebody's just jumping on using raw recipes with 3 different nuts in it and olive oil and a bunch of salt and Bragg's liquid amino acids, the different products and the nuts are going to run your food bill up. Again, as a chef, I used to like to go to all different types of restaurants and raw restaurants to sample the cuisine and sample the food because that would stimulate my creativity. But also, I'm very sensitive to food combinations, right? And I could tell you a lot of those restaurants, I would have the most stinkiest gas because a lot of times I know now with a discerning eye, the nuts were not soaked. These are things that people are new to changing the way that they're eating. These are nuances or things that people may not explain or they may leave out because they just watched another video on YouTube. And it's very easy, for people to be creative and everybody say that they're a chef. But it's more than just the superficial behavior. Foods are natural chemicals inside of the body. And let's say, for example, one of my good friends used to tell me, I can't eat vegetables because I get horrible, stinky gas. Well, there's so many nuances. If you're eating cruciferous vegetables, they give off a natural type of gas on their own. If you remember back in the days, if you folks were eating Chinese food, that was one of the first vegetarian foods I was eating back in the days, broccoli and garlic sauce many years ago. But when I was coming up, that was the vegetarian go-to. It was white rice with broccoli and garlic sauce. Looking back on it now, there was so much oil. And if it was a neighborhood Chinese restaurant, they reuse and recycle that oil. Oil that's reheated over and over again becomes a carcinogen. It's not very healthy. So these are things that you may not see with your naked eye. These are some of the nuances to food. The take-home message that I'd like to share is these are some of the things people may not share because if people don't take on and take ownership and responsibility that I'm changing my eating on a chemical level, not just the party in your mouth and the taste, and be willing to safely go along for the ride. Sometimes you're going to have discomfort, gas, loose bowels. You'll start to become very sensitive to how your body reacts to the different foods. What's breaking your skin out? Sometimes you may think that something is breaking your skin out, but if we slow down and really observe the body, sometimes the food, particularly living foods, which have life force and live chemical enzymes, are stirring up and breaking up all of the waste that's in your system. And if you have gunk and junk and layers of things inside of the walls of your colon and in your bloodstream, would you rather that stuff stay in the system and turn into a growth or a tumor and continually layer your arteries, or would you rather it come out? So things that we put into the body, they have to come out, and they'll come out through the skin, through the bowels, through the sweat. The wonderful thing with whole processed living foods is that if all that food is fresh, that each meal, in a very gentle, sane, even pleasant way, starts to push all of that waste out of the system. So I just wanted to share today, if I taste something, I can feel certain things in my body. I can taste the nuances of salt or whatever. This is why at this point, if somebody's a chef and somebody that loves food quite often, I won't eat other people's food. Some people may not just have the same standards for cleanliness. For example, some people may not think of anything to use the same cutting board and knives with animal foods or flesh foods that they use with vegetables. So we never want to alienate people or make folks feel a certain kind of way, but you do want to be safe, because as you become more sensitive and your body gets clean, certain things may make you sick, or you may have a violent reaction or a very intense reaction to certain things that you're putting into your body. So these are just some things to be aware of and hopefully make us much more present to the fact that this is a living vessel. It's like a living factory of over 1 trillion cells that are constantly communicating with each other. And everything that you put into the body has an effect. I mean, think of it. If you take one little pill, and this one pill can affect your blood pressure and give you a whole reaction like medications, then why would we think any differently of the juices or the sugars and all the other things that we're putting into the body. That's why it's whole living, unprocessed foods for a whole living, unprocessed body. The inside of the body is not plastic. The body doesn't know what to do with a lot of these foreign substances that we're putting into the body. So this is something for us to be, or that I find, that is very, very humbling. And this is what has given me lots of clarity, where I no longer struggle with certain things in terms of what I'll put into my body and what I won't, because I'm clear. I don't like pain. I don't like discomfort. And I want to give my body the best possible chance of doing what it knows how to do. The body is cleansing and building all the time. The body, even all the cells, they eat and they poop. They have cellular metabolism, right? The cells on a cellular level, the skin sheds, we uptake nutrients, and then we shed waste. This is a process that happens throughout all of the body. So I like to think, like my grandmothers, and I like to make things simple and draw pictures so that we could really get it and perhaps shorten a lot of the learning curve around making adjustments to eating and intaking optimal fuel, right? If we put to the side the label of vegan, right, which is no animal products, the reality of us is that many of us don't know what to do with some of the raw ingredients. And I would say that's one of the biggest investments is that learning curve. And it doesn't have to be hard, but it requires a willingness and an openness to learn how to prepare food so you can have a lot of things that you enjoy. That being said, everything is not going to taste like animal flesh and like meat. And that's okay. We don't need everything to clog the body up with cholesterol as it did with the flesh. It's the textures and the flavors. And once you learn, which is not hard, I mean, it's going to take an open mind, you can really enjoy your food and put a lot of that energy and creativity to your garden, or to other things like business or something else. So I hope that this is really valuable. Again, I just really wanted to share that some of the things that you may not hear is because certain people may not have been doing things for a long enough period of time. I think it's kind of rare that you would meet people that have been eating healthy for a long period of time. And another distinction, again, as someone that's worked in the fitness industry and personal training for many years, I've had people that are 300 pounds plus that say, I eat healthy. I've had people on all types of medication that say that they eat healthy. I've had people that drink a bottle and a half more of wine every night and say that they drink in moderation. So it's very subjective. Usually where the mind becomes very resistant is when there's accountability and starting to, for example, most people do not want to keep a food journal because then we'll have to be present and accountable for all the things that we're putting into the body. And there's a resistance to letting go of some of our vices that we use to comfort ourselves, right, psychologically. So I hope that this is helpful. Thank you for supporting the page. If you'd like to pick up the shirt, Your Stomach is Not a Graveyard, that is available on Masani Wearable or Masani Wearable or MWS Boutique on the Etsy shop and also on Body-Culinary. If you're interested in coaching, you can always hit us up in the DM. And we put lots of free content on the Body-Culinary YouTube channel and also on Delilah Fitness. So I'm going to go get some exercise on. I have chores to do in the garden, even though it did rain last night. And I'm going to finish enjoying this delicious, bitter Cerrasee. And don't avoid the bitters, right? Because this is information. A lot of times we try to take the shortcut from things that are so-called unpleasant. In a context, this is an unpleasant that's really, really good for us and for the liver. The fresh bitters. And if you're growing stuff like this can be much more affordable than even wheatgrass. So there's just so much information. I find this really exciting and practical. I get chills for me when I think of my grandmothers and their wisdom. My mother would say, oh, I'm an old soul or whatever. I feel like I don't know, there's something about the simplicity of the grandmother's wisdom that it trumps a whole lot of stuff that people could try to sell to you. That being said, there is a place for science and for medical intervention. Hey, greetings, Dwayne. There's a place for that. But there's so much to be said for the simplicity because it's sustainable. It's what you can do on a regular basis. I can go out and pick Cerrasee, every day if I want to, very inexpensively. And this is it's more accessible to me than wheatgrass, where I have to go get the berries and stuff. So nature's going to give you something wherever you are. If you're in a colder climate, if you're in a warmer climate, a lot of times we're so busy trying to get so much supplements and so many fasting programs and all this, we just get confused, information overload, and then we wind up not doing anything, right? So do go on over to the Body-Culinary channel on Instagram. Follow on Instagram. I'll post things there of what we're doing inside of the garden. My sister is posting a lot of stuff on fitness. So anything when it comes to art and creativity, which is another nourishment other than physical food, and anything with the garden and all these insights and self-experimentation, but safe experimentation with food, this is so much valuable information that you're not going to get with all of that processed food, which is so expensive. But I do understand there was a time where I ate all of that stuff. Your learning curve doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to take you 20 years to eat better, and it doesn't have to be expensive now because you can really benefit from the experience of others and keep it simple and enjoyable. All right, enjoy some bitters today because they are good for your liver and they can help clear up your skin. And go check out the Clear Skin Juice, which is so simple, so simple. If you know folks that are dealing with acne and issues with their skin, it's a simple juice that you can make with a blender and a plant milk bag. All right, create a great day on purpose.